guys, in this video we're going to be going over the best and worst from 2019. So what does that mean? We're going to go over our best and worst campgrounds, national parks, states, cities, and then kind of our highs and lows just personally and related to RV living, all for 2019.
It was really fun putting this one together because we traveled so much and didn't really have any plans, and so our travels took us all across the country. We started out in California, ended up driving out to Salt Lake, then back to California, then to Indiana, looped around Lake Michigan, and then started heading all the way to Glacier, and then down to Colorado, then back to Indiana, then back to Colorado. It was just all over the place, and then we ended up in Los Angeles for the end of the year and just completed a long drive to Florida.
Yes, and in July of 2019 we hit our 2-year nomadiversary, and I feel like being on the road for 2 years now, we're feeling a lot more confident. We also grew as boondockers this year. January 2019, we had never boondocked before. We ended out the year in November by boondocking for 5 weeks straight. So we also had some great upgrades that we did this year, so we're gonna go over those as well. So with all that said, let's just dive right in.
So let's start with the upgrades that we had performed on our rig. I think the biggest and the first that we did were the installation of the Battle-Born batteries, which are amazing, and the Victron inverters. Those two things, just a night and day difference in our level of comfort and stress, especially while boondocking. But it just helps out day to day anyway. Unplugging the RV and having it just automatically switch over and still have power to all the outlets.
And all the major appliances.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even know when we're unplugged.
Yeah.
We can't even tell.
Right.
So we definitely love that upgrade. Well worth it. And then from that upgrade, we actually hightailed it straight across the country. That was the first long haul drive, and the reason was to get MORryde independent suspension done, because they only have 2 facilities that can actually install the independent suspension. Indiana is one, and the other one is in Oregon. So we hightailed it to Indiana where they could fit us in, and I have to say that upgrade has also been amazing. It's another night and day difference system. We got independent suspension and disc brakes installed, and we can definitely tell a difference. Even as a passenger, you can tell the ride is much smoother, and then obviously as a driver.
yeah, it's the truck is rougher than the RV, so
yes.
It's amazing. I really enjoy it. I mean, the disc brakes are just huge night and day difference. So the next upgrade we performed was solar, which we installed ourselves, and that's kind of what the Battle-Born and inverters were there to do, is to then be charged by solar. So we finally got around to actually installing the panels, and they have helped immensely. You know, once again, solar isn't necessary if you have just Battle-Borns and an inverter, but it just makes the ease of charging those beautiful batteries, it's just a night and day difference, just like everything else we've done.
I know, exactly. And so those are the major upgrades. Some of the smaller upgrades we did, we ended out the year by doing our desk upgrade. We're already loving that. We're being better workers, more productive, and our backs and necks aren't killing us anymore. And Jason also installed new panels for our AC units, so he can control them from his phone. So we got a lot of smart RV projects. Well, you have a lot of smart RV projects coming this next year.
They're all in beta. So.
Yeah. So when they're out of beta, keep an eye out for those. And then the last upgrade that we wanted to mention, which is more of a lifestyle upgrade, are our rad power bikes. Those are electric bicycles, and we have loved them. They've totally changed the game for us at rallies and scouting for boondocking sites, and just getting out more because they're so fun that we just obviously get out to ride them. All right, so now we're gonna move on to kind of a speed round of favorite and least favorite states, cities, and campgrounds and stuff like that. So let's start high level. Let's start with the states. So what was your favorite state?
All right, in 2019, I'm going to kind of cheat a little. My favorite state that we visited was Michigan. We just had no expectations for Michigan. It's not something we'd ever looked at. So we were very, very surprised, not only how friendly people were, but how beautiful Michigan was. And I loved that the water was on the west side, and so the sun would set over the water, which is how it should be coming from California. And then just the whole southwest area that we boondocked in general, it's just so beautiful and different.
Yes, and we tried to make different answers, but for this one we couldn't. My favorite state was Michigan and Colorado, but we had such a great time in Michigan. We can't recommend it enough. It's almost one of those situations where you don't want to recommend it because you want to keep it to yourself. So that's how much we really enjoyed that state. And then our least favorite state we agreed on is definitely South Dakota.
And that's a least favorite that's very specific to us. It's nothing against the state necessarily.
No.
It was...
We had a rough go of it in South Dakota, which we will talk about a little bit later on in our low points of the year. So it's nothing against the state, definitely. And then moving on to campgrounds. What was your favorite campground?
All right, so this year, I would say my favorite campground was the Devil's Tower KOA. It's just something I'd been looking forward to since we hit the road, watching Close Encounters of the Third Kind while having Devil's Tower there, and it lived up to its expectations. Good for a night or two, I don't know if I would stay there longer, but definitely have to watch the movie while looking up at Devil's Tower outside. Yeah.
Yes, and mine was Straits State Park in Michigan. We just had a phenomenal site. So if you do stay there, I believe our site was A1, and no hookups though. And it was just this beautiful back in, but then our door side faced the lake, and we had a beautiful view of the bridge. So I can't recommend that site enough. We just had such a great time there. And we only got to stay a couple of days because we didn't install solar yet, so our batteries were getting low and we had to head out. And as far as least favorite campgrounds, I have some, but I don't think we hit any that I just absolutely despised in 2019. So I don't really have a least favorite campground.
Yeah, my least favorite was Pio Pico Thousand Trails in San Diego. We had no service, and I just didn't like their check-in process, like to get a site that had sewer. It was kind of like a lottery system, so you have to move no matter what to get it. And it's not like a first come first serve kind of thing. It's weird.
We now are moving on to cities. So favorite and least favorite cities.
I would say my favorite city was Traverse City in Michigan. Really liked staying at the state park there, and that was when we first got to use our e-bikes, and there's lots of beer there, and it's just beautiful. And if you know anything about me, I like the water, and so It had everything. Beer and water.
Beer and water, that's all we need.
Maybe some trees. We'll throw some trees in there too.
Yes. And my favorite city was Milwaukee. So it had beer, it had water,
yeah.
but it also, they just, revived the downtown warehouses. When the businesses left, it was just a bunch of empty buildings, and they completely revived it into this beautiful downtown area, and just the vibe and the aesthetic, it's really cool. So we want to spend more time in Milwaukee for sure in the summer. But it had a bike path too, so we could bike to the downtown area from our campground, And we were there during Summerfest, which is like a month-long music festival.
Yeah, it takes up one of the 3 months they have of summer, so...
Yeah. Yes.
Or 3 months of not winter, I should say.
Exactly. So we had a great time at Summerfest. Yeah. We went there as well. And Jason's little sister came out to visit. So we just had, good time after good time in Milwaukee. And then moving on to least favorite. This was another thing that we agreed on. And oh God, I'm dreading saying this. Our least favorite city was Chicago. Yeah, and okay, it was the timing of the year. We went in the middle of summer, so it was hot, it was sticky.
4th of July, so it was crowded.
Yes, very crowded. And we stayed, we dry camped in a parking lot that they have there, and we did like that we were so close to the city we could ride our e-bikes in, but again with the weather and just sticky, I can't express that word enough. It was humid,
so hot and so humid.
Yes, and we experienced thunderstorms there, and
it's like solar wasn't it was just like a whole thing.
Yeah, it really the solar wasn't working. We were having to get out the generator a lot. We were having to go get gas a lot, and because we were trying to run the ACs. So that was a good test on the ACs. I mean, they can definitely run off our battery bank, but only for, if you're running both, 4 or 5 hours?
Yeah, probably about 4.
Yeah, so
max,
we were constantly using the generator, so we weren't draining our batteries every single day. We do want to go back to Chicago when it's not so hot and humid and really get the true experience of the city without being distracted or miserable. So the exact opposite of the cities, boondocking. So what was your favorite boondocking site?
My favorite boondocking site was actually Hannah Road in South Dakota. While it was a little bit of a trial to get into the site, once we were there, it was beautiful. We had like a stream going behind us into a pond, and there was like some kind of like beaver-esque creature.
I know, we couldn't tell if it was a beaver or a muskrat.
Muskrat, yeah. I was thinking swamp rat, and I was like, that's not it. Yeah, muskrat, yeah. But he was cool swimming around, and it was just, we were all by ourselves, so I really liked it.
Yes. And then I'll jump to my least favorite, because that actually was my least favorite boondocking spot. It was beautiful. However, emotionally, I am scarred from that place, because getting in there was so scary, because it took forever. Like, I think it took 11 or 12 times, I counted it, trying to back up because the road was so narrow and it just needed to be this 90-degree turn backing in, and there was, a ditch in the front of the truck. So either way, like, you were going to face a ditch. So it was scary getting in. And then the first night there, we experienced and out of the blue, even the locals were surprised that this storm came through. Just this insane lightning storm, hail, thunder, wind gusts, like, so scary. And then we lost a cell tower. So we lost cell service during this whole storm, and it was just terrifying. And then the next day, the trees were blocking the road, so we couldn't get out. So we learned a lot of lessons from that place, but I'd have to say the scariness of it outweighs how pretty it was to me. So I marked it as my least favorite spot.
So what was your favorite spot?
So my favorite spot was actually Salida. I knew it when I was there, and then reviewing it yesterday, I was like, how do you say that again? And we got some nasty comments because I wasn't pronouncing it right. So I'm really sorry if I just irritated you again the second time. But that boondocking spot was close enough to a city that I felt safe. It was a super easy in, super easy out, and we had a beautiful, like, walking trail. And I just really liked the vibe there. It was the first boondocking spot that I slept well in. I wasn't waking up multiple times in the middle of the night. I think that was like my boondocking spot that made me finally say, boondocking is okay. So then what was your least favorite?
My least favorite was probably the Grand Canyon boondocking site. Not for anything specific. It had a lot of traffic back and forth, and there wasn't anything special about it. It was very close to the Grand Canyon. That was very convenient. But in terms of just a spot to park, like, that's pretty much all it was. We stayed at a lot of cool places, and that's just the least cool.
It was just meh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and we had a cold snap, so I think that left a bad taste in our mouth.
Yeah, it was 18 degrees outside for a little bit there.
Yeah,
So,
not fun.
yeah.
So then, speaking of national parks, what was your favorite national park that we visited?
So we did a lot this year, but I think my favorite would be Glacier National Park. It just, the going to the Sun Road and, like, just the vista that you get from there is breathtaking, and yeah, I had a lot of fun.
That's very true.
Yeah.
My favorite was Mesa Verde National Park in Colorado. I had no expectations here, but it just blew me away. I loved the history of the ancestral Pueblo people. I loved the buildings that they built into the side of the cliffs. It was just really, really cool to me. So we obviously recommend both of those national parks.
Yeah, all national parks.
All national parks.
Except our least favorite national park.
Yes.
We also recommend it, but, maybe save it for last.
Yeah, it's not a go out of your way to, which is Indiana Dunes.
So it's one of the newest. They just
It's our 61st.
Yeah, 61st. So
yeah, so we did go kind of out of the way. It actually became designated as a national park in the summer of 2019 when we were in Chicago. So we kind of said, we're not loving our time in Chicago. Let's go check out this national park. And we went to the national park, and it was just meh. It's very weird. It's very separated, so you have to drive to a lot of different areas in the park, which I know that happens in a lot of national parks, but you're driving through the city. You have to get on the freeway to go to a different part of the national park, which kind of just takes away the whole, what's the point of driving through the park when it's just the freeway? And the best part, which is a lot of the dunes, we've heard, we didn't even get to see it, was still designated as a state park. And so when we went to go look at that, the line was way too long to get in, just crazy long. So we didn't even go.
Yeah, and you would have to pay separately for that because it's not part of the national park. Mm-hmm. So then we went to the big dunes that they had for the national park, which was like a 20-minute drive from some of the other part of the unit.
Up the freeway.
Yeah, pretty much. And then we couldn't even walk on the dunes. It was pretty much a big sand hill leading right into the lake. And then, although we spent like an hour there playing with Carmen, but like the whole time you're looking over and there's like a big condensing tower with like smoke coming out of it, which like looks like the atomic tower from The Simpsons, right? So I don't know what it was, but it's just not a national park feeling.
Yeah. I mean, we just didn't have a great experience. I think that's all the favorites and least favorites. So moving on to our highs and lows. So I feel like this year we had some really good highs and we had some very low lows that if we had experienced these lows maybe in our first 6 months on the road, they would have made me question what in the world are we doing? But because we've been on the road and you get used to curveballs, it was okay. But some of our lows were, we had a deer, we got stuck in the mud, we had that terrifying experience out boondocking in South Dakota with getting trapped in the forest with the downed trees. We had a midge infestation, and it was our first time getting mice in the RV this year, too.
And then on the other hand, we had some of our highest highs, which included going to the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. We attended a bunch of rallies. We went boondocking more than I thought we would. We actually took a vacation this year to Hawaii for my mom's birthday, which was a lot of fun. We attended 12 national parks, which is more than I thought we'd get to. So that's like one a month.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, we did get out exploring a lot this year. So, with that said, what let's do our highest highs for RV living, and then personal life, and then lowest lows for both of those as well. So what was your highest high as far as RV life goes?
So, highest high for RV life, I would say, was visiting Glacier National Park and just, I guess, exploring all of Michigan. Like, it was just really cool. Didn't really know what to expect, and I was blown away, especially with Glacier. We came up from the east side, and so the dramatic view from the going to the Sun Road just came out of nowhere, because we were just, it was like okay, and then it's like we crested the hill and it was just boom there and beautiful. So, and it's very scary, especially in a dually, very small road.
Yes. So then what was your highest high as far as like a personal level for you?
Yeah, so for a personal level, I think just boondocking more was really good for just mental health. Being out in nature always helps, and while we try to go hiking when we can, boondocking is like you step outside and you're hiking, I guess.
Yeah,
it's a lot easier to just go.
Yes.
So, I really like that. And my lowest lows for personal life was just turning 31. Yeah, it's real now.
I don't think we're going to get a lot of sympathy from our audience on that one.
Yeah, but we didn't really have anything major planned this year. Usually, like last year, we went to Mexico for my birthday, and we've kind of always planned something. But this year, we just had our birthdays where we were, and they weren't bad birthdays. We both had a lot of fun on our birthdays themselves, but just turning 31, we weren't.
I mean, we kind of felt the same way this year on our birthdays. Like, it's more so 30 was fine. Everyone tells you that 30 is going to suck. And then 31 was just, it was weird. It was a reflective year for us. And yeah, wasn't that great, I guess.
Yeah.
Can't really elaborate too much on that.
And then that tied into my lowest low, which is for the RV life. And that was, we didn't really have any plans for our travels. And we're usually very goal based. So not having a goal of what we wanted to do this year kind of led to our travels being all over the place, just seeing things that we've had on our to-do list all over the country. And so then we would just kind of connect the dots in between them, and it felt all over the place.
Yeah.
And so that kind of, I don't know,
not having a goal
was
ate at you.
Yeah, definitely. It just eat to me a little bit. And so what were your lowest lows in terms of RV life and personal life?
Yes. So RV life, hitting the deer was honestly my lowest low. It was very sad for me. And I still think about it and I get sad, which some people just aren't going to care about, because most people were rooting that we hit a deer and they didn't care. But for me, that was really hard to injure another animal like that. And I still think about it and I wonder if it's okay, because it got up and ran away. So anyway, that was my RV life low. And then my personal low was dealing with the weight that we've gained since being on the road. And it was more so this personal thing that I just wasn't very happy, but then we started getting comments about it. And that is what really made me hit this super low point of, whoa, people online are commenting about my weight and my face and asking me if I'm pregnant. And that was really hard for me. And it's not something we talk about too much, is how comments can affect us. And I think over the last 2 years, we've built a really thick skin, but sometimes people will just hit that button. And that button for me in 2019 was weight gain. So yeah, that was definitely a low. That was very mentally hard for me to deal with something on a personal level, but then have it still be public and have people talk about it publicly. So anyway, My highs were actually starting to lose weight again. We signed on with Christine Irene Fitness, and we started to lose weight, and so I started to feel better about myself again, and I got that thick skin built up about the comments again, so that was definitely a high, and coming out of that pretty bad slump for me. And then as far as RV life goes, my highlight was socializing and meeting friends on the road. We met a lot of new people this year, and that's really important to us, we've realized, is socializing on the road. So the rallies were definitely a high point for me, and Michigan, obviously. So we now have 5 lessons learned that we're just gonna shoot through here because we're already getting a little longer than we wanted. But the first lesson is boondocking is totally doable in a big rig.
Yeah, we started off not knowing what to expect, and having a large rig does make it a little bit more difficult, but just like finding a campground, just requires a little bit of research.
And the second lesson learned is that it's really important to have a goal and a plan. I know not everyone works like that, but if you already know that about yourself and you want to become more free-spirited, you could give it a try. That's kind of what we tried to do in 2019, and it became a low point for us, was not having a goal or not having a plan. So we are definitely going to be doing that going forward.
Yeah, and we're probably not going to be as strict as we have been before in terms of wanting to plan out every week, but having an overall goal for our year and what we want to do with RV travel will be what we do.
Yes, finding that good middle ground.
Yeah. And number 3 would be that road friends are important.
Yes.
So this year we met a lot of people that on the road that we really clicked with, and we really like hanging out with people. But at the same time, because we were all over the place, they were very short encounters. And so along with our planning, we're hoping to meet up with more friends like we are actually right now, staying in this boondocking site with Kyle and Olivia from Driving and Vibin', and Caitlin and Tom from Morton's on the Move. And so that's more important to us, and we've already started 2020 strong.
Yes, exactly. And number 4 is that routine keeps us happy. So this kind of goes hand in hand with having a plan, but this is on a smaller scale and a more daily scale, and that is having a routine. So we are working on building a better routine with work and with working out, because it really just keeps us sane. It gets us out of the RV and away from our laptops for a little while. And it's better because when we have a routine with eating, we're eating better and we're meal planning. So having a routine, I think, is really important, and it's something that's very easy to lose when you're on the road. So just keep that in mind.
Lesson 5, and something that we think is important for almost everyone in the RV lifestyle, is to not set expectations. Some of the things that we've done this year, we were either disappointed because we set really high expectations and researched a ton about it and got really excited, and it was still great, but it just didn't meet that wow expectation that we had set. So kind of disappointing there, but some of the places we've had the most fun were places that were on our list and we kind of looked into but didn't really know what to expect, and we didn't set that expectation in our head of what it should look like or what we should be doing there, or it's just, and so those we've had the most fun, and Michigan is a huge example of that.
Yes, 0 expectations for Michigan, and it blew us out of the water.
Yeah, we just didn't even research it. So.
Yes, so definitely don't set expectations. All right, so that was our 2019. We actually really enjoyed doing this look back exercise because it made us realize how awesome our year was and how lucky we are to be living this lifestyle, and it got us super pumped for 2020. So I am going to have a link in the description for our campgrounds and our boondocking locations if you want to check those out. And I think that's about it. If you want to watch any of those adventures, I tried to link them in the corner here throughout the video. So go watch our highs and lows firsthand. Other than that, don't forget to like this video. And truly, we say this at the end of every video, but if you aren't subscribed to our channel, we'd really appreciate it if you did and you came along with our journeys for 2020. We're very excited to have you in our gang. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
That was a plan, but it goes down to a little more. And then as far as our V life goes, I forgot what it was.
It may not meet that.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it went right in my eye. Okay. What was your favorite state in 2019?
What did I put? Boondocking a lot more than I thought we would, and being able to see everything out here and not be in a campground out here. I know. Sorry.